Okay. Let me get the sound. That's why. That makes sense? What was that? Oh, that was the sound. Okay. We connected. I don't hear nothing. You know what? We're gonna. There it is. There it is. Okay, we're connected. It just automatically connected. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking. That's how we get a show going. Okay. Yeah, we're back, man. Hey, we're live. No, no, how y'all doing? I thought we'd be back this morning, probably, and we're back 5 minutes later than I wanted to, but we are back. We are here. Make sure the mic is working well. Everything looks good, and we're here, man. And we're gonna be reacting to everything that I've quickly seen from today's day of training camp. I was not there today. I won't be there this week. Okay, this is just, the media members are getting things popped off. So I was like, hey, if you weren't here this morning, just because of kind of how my schedule works, I don't plan on doing morning shows and night shows. I don't think that would make sense. I just did it today. But I plan on just kind of doing these live streams just for timing reasons, because if I do a video, which I may if it's a short one, like I could have done a video today, but it'll also probably take much longer to get it out than if I just go live, potentially. So I don't know. This one may have been close. This one may have been similar, but because it's already been out for hours, let's go live. Let's chat about today. If you guys see everything that I haven't seen or that I haven't seen note of, definitely throw it in the chat. Anything around the league that y'all have seen, I haven't seen anything around the league. I haven't even looked outside of Trent Williams holding out of practice. I don't know what's going on around the NFL. So a lot of this stuff, man, we're going to be figuring this out together. And yeah, let's get into it. Hey, Detroit Sports Talk. See, this was the one. He broke some news here. Mekhi Blackmon suffered a torn ACL on his first day of training camp. Oh my goodness. Does he have an ACL history? How does that happen, man? I guess you don't need to. I didn't have a history of nothing, but that's awful. No, that's actually awful, because that'll knock him out for the season. I would assume, right? If it is at least 6 months, right? And then you have the rehab, bro, yeah, he's probably knocked out for the season. That's tough. And obviously they had a really unfortunate thing happen. So yeah, that stinks. That stinks, man. It's a young cornerback room, man. They're trying to figure it out. They got a lot of young DBs. They're trying to figure it out. That's not what they need. They don't need young guys. They don't need their young guys not out in the field. They need those guys on the field right now, because that's the position, really, when you look at that team, that it's I don't really know what they have there. So they're going through a lot. That stinks. Who else is in the building here? We got Darren. My man Darren's here. What is that logo? Oh, okay, that's fire. Darren, I haven't seen you in a minute, man. Of course I remember you, but I didn't even recognize the logo. That's a new logo since the last time I've seen you in the chat. How you doing? What up, Dorsey? We can hear you. Oh, Dorsey. Okay, I said Dorsey. I saw John. Was that John Dorsey today in one of their clips they posted? I think it was. And is he still working for us? I would assume. I guess he is. Yo, my boy finally got some Lions in. Yes, sir. Lions news, maybe. All right. Hey, bro, you hear from Rad recently, and when can you have him on? So I don't know when we'll have him on. I talked to Rad a lot. Don't know exactly when we're gonna have him on. This week's just already weird because this week's already started. Thursday's gonna be super difficult. Thursday's already packed tomorrow to do anything. Maybe Friday. I'm gonna reach out for Friday. Maybe something like that. We can make it happen. I know Let's Talk Lions. I got to reach out to him too. See if he wants to come on. So I'll see if one of those two want to do something potentially Friday. Maybe even Saturday. I don't know. Saturday, probably not, because Saturday I'll actually be there. So it probably wouldn't be super helpful. But yes, Friday can make sense. I think I may try to get something happening Friday, because I assume they have practice. Yeah, they have practice Friday. So maybe we'll try to get something going then. Ready to talk some Pistons content. Of course, that's why you're here. Did you play football in high school? I did not. No. I'm on a coaching staff right now for high school, but I didn't play in high school. There was a fight in the Texas training camp today. Oh, snap. Was Stephon Diggs involved? I got to ask. I mean, that's what everybody wants to know. Probably not. You probably would have led with that. What up, Dose? Ain't felt this good about the Lions ever. Hey, Pride Time B, my man. I haven't seen you in a minute, man. Hey, it's good to see you in here. Now, I feel the energy is crazy. Tell him I said, hey, bro. Okay, I will do, Michael. I'm going to tell him. You know what? I'm going to text him right now and tell him Michael said, hey. And then we're going to get into this. He's going to be like, what are you talking about? Nah, he should know. I'm going to text him right now. Michael says hi. Bang. Oh, not that. Okay. There you go. I just texted him. Boom. All right, let's do this thing. Let's start talking. This football is here. What I've seen, and again, if I haven't seen something that you guys have, throw it in the chat, because I'm sure different outlets have different information. But let's just start off with the big news, man. It was the injury stuff, because I didn't notice this until tonight. But I guess at like 10:30, somewhere around that, maybe it was at 10:30. I think usually they post these things at about 10:30. But I guess what the Lions did is they took every player that we saw on the active NFI list that was placed on there today was taken off today. They went through their physicals or whatever, and they're good. They're no longer on that list. So that included Amik Robertson, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Who else was on that list? Amik Robertson, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Wait, did I not write the rest of the names? Amik Robertson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Smith. Okay, hold up. This is a terrible start. The other notes are good. Trust me. I don't know why. I don't know what I put there. Except DJ Reader. Yes, except DJ Reader. The other players were taken off too. But we had the 3 today that popped up. We had the 4 today, that popped up. And those players have all been taken back off of that list. Let me remember who they were. Oh, Traquan Smith. That's why. I can't write just Smith. Traquan Smith and Carlton Davis. There you go. Traquan Smith. It's like, who is Smith? Traquan Smith. Okay, got it. Which is great news. It's great news. It's not like certain guys didn't really participate still today, but they were taken off the list, or they were just very limited from what I was able to gather. I don't know all those players that were, but that's kind of what it sounds like. But yes, then to that point that was made by Detroit Sports Talk is that the list that we had before, everybody outside of DJ Reader was taken off the list as well. So that includes Marcus Davenport was taken off the PUP list. So was Brian Branch, which is fantastic news, because neither of those we really had any kind of timeline on. So for them to be taken off the list is great. It sounds like they still didn't really have reps today. Maybe they did a little bit. Maybe they're just extremely limited. But it sounds like they weren't getting like normal first-team reps, those kind of things. So they're still working back into it. And if you listen to Dan this morning, he did say that those were 2 guys that were going to be going through walkthroughs. So it sounds like they didn't practice, but they also didn't have to be on the list. So they took them off the list. And then you also have Giovanni Manu, who was taken off the NFI list. And we didn't really know why he was on that list, to be honest there. But he wasn't limited at practice, I guess. So, everything's good with Giovanni Manu. Apparently, he was with the 3rd team working at left tackle, which is interesting. I don't know if he played any other spots, but working at left tackle, it's interesting. Maybe the Lions do want to stick him at left tackle. If that dude can develop into a tackle, it's going to help us a ton. It's going to help us a ton there. But we're going to talk about offensive line here in a second, because that's actually the thing that I was most interested in, is just like when you get these early days, who is lining where does everybody kind of fall in that early depth chart? We know things will change, but what does it just look like right away? How are they envisioning this is going to play out? Especially when you're missing some starters, it's actually kind of exciting, because you know where those guys are going to play, where the backup's going to fall in place here. So yeah, that's the injury news. Jameson Williams threw up like 8 times. Hey, Charles said 7. So you guys got, differing reports here. So if that's the case, man, y'all got to get that together. Okay, that's on y'all. But no, I did hear that as well. It sounds like it was after the touchdown, actually. Now, having read it, it's like, so he scored his touchdown and then he threw up. I guess he said he didn't eat the right thing for breakfast. But the way that it was explained, I don't remember who said this, but one of the articles said that the way it was explained is that because he was working really hard in practice and he looked in shape, like we kind of said this morning, like I wouldn't expect it to be something where it's like he's just not in shape and he's not ready for this. That's something that you would expect from a guy that's not working out in the offseason, not at the NFL level, not with a guy that's like 170 pounds. But still, the idea that is probably was just a mix of, it was pretty hot. And it was pretty hot today. It was a mix of that. And if he ate something bad for breakfast, sometimes that's what happens. But also hearing that he's probably pushing it that hard is great, because that means he's already in, mid-season form, in terms of not like he's in that form technically, but he's putting that effort out there so the game won't feel fast. And I think that speaks back to comfortability. When you're able to play really fast, it's probably because you're comfortable. A lot of times that comes back from just purely having experience and understanding of what you're doing, what's being asked. You play fast, but definitely having comfortability in what's going on. And, like I said, that stems from experience. And like everybody talked about today, we said, hey, the most hyped player was going to be J-Mo. I think we all expected that. And he was the headline of everything today, mainly because of the touchdown, which we do have the clip of. And we're gonna throw that on the street, actually. So I don't know if there was more clips out there. There may have been on like Instagram or something. I'm only on X here, so if there was, I may have missed them. Also, Taylor Decker, we got to talk about that a little bit, because Sounds like Taylor Decker wants a new deal with the Lions. Like, he wants to stick around here. He said that he's even approached Dan Campbell during like OTAs to kind of, or not, yeah, OTAs to kind of like make it clear, like, yo, I kind of want to get that thing done. As he said, like, hey, everybody wants money, but he does really like it here. And basically, having come through the trenches and to where they are now, he wants to be part of getting an extension. And I think the idea that we could give him an extension is actually fantastic. It'd be awesome to be able to give Taylor Decker an extension. I mean, you'd have to pay him, of course, but I would think the Lions would be more than willing to pay him, especially if they don't have to give him the highest number of what anybody is asking. They'll have to pay him, but they don't have to give him the highest number out there. Just knowing that you have a tackle that you know exactly what you're going to get, I think the Lions are fine with it. I don't think it's an issue of paying somebody. It's just that if Decker leaves, it's like now you're either relying on a rookie who you draft really high, maybe Manu next season, probably not Sorsel, but I guess he could be, or it's you're signing someone else. And man, just grabbing a tackle that's just available in free agency is not easy to find. Those guys don't just become available. So I would say it's good that he's already thinking about that. Clearly, he wants to get that thing going. So that's fantastic. But I want to show this clip first. So we'll go through who's on the field, that kind of stuff, with some of the notes that we have. But this was the play that they showed. I'll let it play through. So Goff takes this shot. I mean, where's he catching that thing, right? He's at the 40 there. So he's catching this the third, 40, 35, close to the 30. All right, he's just in front of the 30-yard line. And Goff's throwing this thing probably from the, what do we say, the 15, the 13. So he's throwing that, 15 to midfield. That's 35 yards. It's about 45 plus in air. 45 plus in air. That's a shot play. Nah, I'd cook Jamo. No, straight up. That's not something you want to see. Jamo doesn't want to see that. You know what I mean? But that's cool. Like, we all stay in our lane, that kind of thing, So, but no, seriously though, this is a dot. This is awesome. Now, I don't know what the heck coverage this is or whatever. They don't give you really angles to tell what's going on. I haven't also even looked at it that much. It looks like though, so we have a cornerback here that's running with our receiver. So it almost gives you a sense of space. Oh, no, that's actually Kirby Joseph. That's Kirby Joseph running with a receiver. I think that's Kirby. And then they said if he's at safety here. So my initial thought was this was probably cover 3 because he probably ran by Iffy. We were told it was like a post pattern, and it was passed off by the cornerback here, which was Enos Rakestraw, who was getting to start out wide because there was no Amik and there was no Carlton Davis. And then on the opposite side, it looks like Terrion maybe just dropped out and tried to get back on top of it, but he was slow to do so. And obviously, if you're slow to do so, he's gone, dude. There's no like makeup speed for that. You're not catching that guy. Now it's just on the quarterback putting it out there. And this was actually really nice too, man, because like for Goff's sake here, getting this ball out, he kind of put this thing like a little bit on kind of a line, He kind of let him catch and run with this. And obviously it was a great throw, but it wasn't like it made a lot of sense for his skill set to be able to just kind of put it on the line because he just was able to run by both guys. And also, wow, dude, Lions, bro. Hey, real quick, whatever y'all like, this looks incredible, man. It really does. I don't even know what this is. This is the end zone. This is crazy. If you guys were there in years past, this used to be a tent. They used to have just a tent right here. Now they have like a double-decker bleachers type of thing. I mean, we're looking like the Kansas City Chiefs out here. It looks insane. They got this massive thing that they installed, which used to just be a tent. And maybe there's still, it looks like there's space underneath for that stuff. And then over here, they got just the normal bleachers, but they got the two things on top to block the sun. It looks like it's the normal size. It doesn't look any bigger. That thing's always been there kind of. But this thing looks pretty wild. So anybody with the VIP stuff, man, they're going to get hooked up. The VIP, you're going to get hooked up. Because that looks good. They got the AC in there. Yeah, okay. So I don't know if he started just throwing chunks right there. You know what I mean? He did the St. Brown, throw the ball at the wall. I don't know. This is what I thought from my understanding. That's the play where he just started puking, but I don't know. We don't need to talk about that. Like someone said they only saw one reception from him, but because it was that reception, it was like, hey, he was the dude today. It's like, all right, I get that. I'm mad. It was a short practice. There probably wasn't that many opportunities, but yeah, okay. He burned Terrion for a TD. Yeah, that may have been a different play, unless they're saying it's that one, which in that case, it could be. I guess like if it was a cover 3 and he was passing that thing to Kirby because Kirby was at the post and he just gave it to him and then he dropped out, I guess technically speaking, you could say that, yeah, he would have gotten burned on that play. The flip side would have been, I would almost say that he would have probably burnt Iffy more because he would have crossed Iffy's face. And for Terrion, he was probably held by the depth of like if he ran like a dig route to potentially try to hold him so that when that break happened, there was no way he was going to be able to sit on top of it. I would assume, but I don't even know if that's the coverage. That would just be my guess. But either way, he burned everybody. And then Rakestraw's going to pass it off. So it's like, hey, that's what teams do, man. You get speed on the safety and you got a problem. you got a problem, especially if they're just being a little bit aggressive. Like, ooh, let me dive. Nope. He's gone, man. And that's the game breaking. Honestly, if we go back, no, actually take that back. You know what I think this was? You know what this may have been also? Is probably quarters coverage. That's very possible too. We got linebackers dropping out. We won't spend too much time on this, but if you think about what happened against Dallas, it was quarters coverage when we hit the big shot play to Jamo. Wouldn't surprise me if it was the same thing, where the cornerback just gave it off to the safety dove down, and now on the backside, it's kind of the same principle. Now he's already on the hash, so he's got a lot more room. Now he's just racing with him. Probably was similar to the Dallas play. That's what my assumption would be there, because Dallas was the exact same thing. They got the safety to bite. As soon as he stuck and got out of it, the backside had no chance to catch up to it, and he was just gone. He just went by everybody. So great way to start things off. I don't even know if that was showing on the screen, by the way. Hopefully it was. Y'all saw that, right? Okay, I think yes. Okay, but yeah, so real quick, Taylor Decker, I haven't seen this clip. I'm just going to throw it up on the screen just because it looks cool. It looks like I know what I'm doing if I throw this on the screen and then we talk about stuff like, oh, look at this guy. Look at this guy, man. He's got like overlays and stuff on a live stream. Yeah, not really. I just took it from X. But Taylor Decker, like I said, apparently he wants a new deal with the Lions. He wants to stick around with the Lions. And there's also one article made note of the fact that like he needed something healing wise, like that kind of thing. And he was able to get that. And I could say this, man, just a quick little side note to what a little bit we touched on this morning, like Sheila reinvesting costs a lot of money for tickets, those kind of things. But you can see that they're reinvesting. I mean, clearly they're putting money, players. We hear they have a new training facility or like a lot of updated features to it, right? Weights, those kind of things. And obviously the fans upgraded experience there. So it is cool to see them putting money back into all of the experience that they have here. That is pretty awesome, because it could have just been the exact same. Even if they just upgraded the player stuff, they could have just left the fan stuff the exact same. But it is cool to see that stuff is actually getting an upgrade. That's pretty awesome. So just to hit on that real quick, shout out to Sheila. I'm sure she's the one kind of leading the charge there. Whoever was, shout out to y'all. We know that they truly care about winning, and I think that kind of speaks to it. Like, they were willing to put the money in. They just had to get the product kind of there. And I think even Taylor Decker hit on that. Like, we're going to do everything we can to kind of put that back into play. The last clip that we had here on X was a classic. This is a classic, man. So I'm just going to play it. Dan Campbell doing Dan Campbell things with the team. I mean, come on now, doing the up downs. I mean, and they look clean, man. He's doing his thing out there, man. Dan Campbell built different. He got the leg sleeve and everything. That man has pain, and he don't care. All right. Anyway, that's I don't know why we're spending time. Anyway, let's continue, man. Chat, how we doing? That was just kind of the opener. Lock it in. Broderick Martin gonna have a massive year. I hope so. In a way, I kind of hope not, but he's going to be on my thing is, even if Rune Reeder's there, he's going to find the field, because I think he'll still rotate to an extent. I don't think he'll have a massive year, but I think he still will rotate in. And, if you didn't see our last, show we did, the last podcast episode 2 days ago, not this morning, the last one, we talked about Broderick Martin specifically in that one. So definitely go check that one out. Bruce Irvin was 36 last year. Cam Jordan's still pretty decent. Oh, y'all talking about going and adding somebody? Give Levi a chance. This is his first healthy offseason. So I'm really fired up about Levi. And, let's start there first. So we hear about kind of the lineups that the Lions are throwing out there. Let's start defensively. So again, no Meek, right? No Carlton Davis, even though they're not on the list. So Lions apparently rolled out with their starting 7-on-7 unit. And the interesting thing is that it was listed as 3 linebackers, which is just interesting in general. But anyway, 3 linebackers, 2 corner. I guess if it's 11, 12 personnel or something, you don't see just that as much in the NFL. But anyways, 3 linebackers was Derek Barnes at the sandbacker position, Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone. That's kind of what we've come to expect. And then Derek Barnes will rotate inside. We saw that last year too, especially when we start to go to the depth. But behind Derek Barnes, the key is that it was listed was James Houston was the backup behind Derek Barnes right now in that position. We've talked about that a lot. We talked about that this morning, like who's going to play on third downs, those kind of things. So again, I think James Houston, here's the thing that I like about this is not only has it found a really nice role for Derek Barnes, and he's, kind of found a way to start excelling in that role, but I think it's also great for James Houston because it's such a natural fit for him to kind of try to he can't play defensive end, but it's a very natural fit to have a position that works to play with size next to him. and then still find a way to find the field, but also kind of tap into some of the athlete that he is. So it is really cool, I think, for both of those guys, even if they just rotated this season. Like, I wouldn't be against that. They're both healthy. Let them rotate, man. I'm on board with that, especially if James proves that he can help us against the run. Obviously, that's the key for him. I don't expect him to be what Barnes is against the run. There's just a different build there, like physique-wise. But if he's solid there, we know that he could drop. He showed that a couple years ago. And then behind those two was Matthew Betts, which is another thing that we touched on. And to me, Matthew Betts, if he's going to make the roster this year, I think a lot of it's going to have to be like, yo, what can you do as a pass rusher? Like, straight up. Can we rotate you in on sub packages, right? Can we put you in the interior, let you go to work? Because, again, James Houston, to me, is going to do his damage from the outside. Derek Barnes doesn't really do a ton of damage as a pass rusher for what we've seen so far. Hopefully he can expand on that, but he hasn't done a ton of damage. He does a little bit. He works on the edge a lot. So if Matthew Betts can prove, especially if he kicks inside, that he can get after the quarterback a little bit. And if you have, times where, because, Davenport's probably still going to miss some time this season. By the way, we're rocking the Davenport today. If he can prove that he can have some success there, that could open up a potential role for him to kind of crack his way onto the roster. But it does make sense, because this goes back to what I think Dan Campbell said it, like, yo, Matthew Betts, maybe we didn't know he had some of that athlete in him that could drop into coverage. But even in the CFL, like, you saw some of that, just some very small glimpses. So, speaks well there. I don't know. I think that's cool. I think it's cool that those guys all kind of have like a natural role they can work into. But in the back end, it was Enos Rakestraw, as we saw the clip, Terran Arnold, and the most interesting one, the fascinating one to me, is Emanuel Mosley in the slot. Do you think Mosley will start? I'm really hoping Gilly makes the roster. Do I think Emanuel Mosley will start? No. Do I think Gilly makes the roster? I think those are two separate. I don't think Stephen Gilmore makes the roster. That's based on nothing this year, obviously. I don't know. Like, I'm not basing that on really anything. So just keep that in mind. Like, we'll see if he's awesome in the preseason, and it's like, yeah, I mean, he should. But like I said, I thought Dorsey was better in the preseason last year, but Gilmore showed a lot of upside. Obviously, he could take the ball away, and you always got to have guys like that. So he stuck around. Gilmore did that, which not a lot of guys do, is stick around for another season like he did. But that being said, right, Dorsey was like right towards the edge there. And I think when you look at it right now, just because of the depth that we have, if guys aren't entering the season that's on like a reserve list, I don't think he'll end up making the cut. That being said, you'd want to think that you can get him back. I don't know if you can. I mean, we saw last season teams were picking up our cornerbacks that, we didn't keep around. Like Arizona picked up a couple. So I don't know. Gilmore feels like the Lions have some real nice value. And if he picks up on another really good preseason, and if he expands on that, I think if he's hands down the best corner, if he feels like the best corner because he's going to get the majority of the reps, they find a way to keep him. If he feels like the best corner. But if I had to bet right now, I would say I don't think he does. But anyways, the interesting one for me was Emanuel Mosley, man. That's the thing that stood out to me, is to hear that he's playing in that slot role. I don't know that would be his role. It's just kind of where we're at right now with who's available. Brian Branch wasn't really practicing either. But what I love about that is he hasn't really done it much in his career. Most recently, he did it with San Fran back in 2020 against the LA Rams. Not going to say it was his best game, and I don't know if this is even his most natural position, right? I think you could make a case he's much more natural out wide. But it is interesting because it's something that we've never really talked about. We talk about a lot of guys that could play that role. I think it's really interesting. And Enos then sticking on the outside, I think maybe that tells you a little bit how they feel about Enos. He apparently, rotated into both, but they have Enos, basically from how we understand it, above Emanuel Mosley in terms of when those two are both on the field, they prefer Enos right now out wide and Mosley in the slot. And I don't know if that's more of like we like Enos more, so he's going to be out wide, or if that's more of like, hey, we like Mosley in the slot a little bit more. That way, when we kick down, Enos actually kicks into the slot when the depth comes in. So I don't know which one that is. Either way, something that's kind of fascinating, especially while guys miss, is keeping an eye on Emanuel Mosley. Because if you do think about it, and we're looking at number 4 here, I just pulled some clips. Sorry for the flashing green lights, man. If this bothers anybody, let me know. It's only a couple clips. I don't know why. For whatever reason, this game just has flashing lights. I thought it was on my end. It's not. I think it's on NFL for whatever reason. There's just like flashing lights on a couple of these clips. But when you watch Mosley, like he never felt the most fluid as a corner, but he was always very quick, always very twitchy. We obviously liked his run support, and he just never felt extremely fluid. Like even his transition, he would give up space off the press, those kind of things. But he loved to play with physicality. And it's like he said today, like when I get to work in the slot, I get to play physical. I get to step in against the run. He's like, I'm 24/7. I'm always in the action. And we even showed a clip from that Rams season when he did play in the slot. But I'm not saying that's like the ideal fit, but there's certain traits that do feel like, yeah, that could actually make a ton of sense. That his quickness, right, what he brings to the table, would actually set himself apart a little bit from our other cornerbacks. And it actually makes a lot of sense. Even when you see things like this, right? Like concept awareness, and he's very decisive too. That's what I like too, because when you think about like a guy that's working the slide, he's a lot closer to the ball. You got to make very quick decisions. He doesn't play with like to me like the body control that a guy Brian Branch does, but he's very decisive. He's going to play fast. Here you can see just the awareness of the concept that's coming. Here comes the crosser. He's very quick to just jump on. So many guys let that kind of play out. He dives on top of that, takes that away immediately. And those kind of traits, they can carry over because things are happening faster, just to trust his eyes and go. Got him into trouble at times. No problem being the force player like this in the slot. Again, like Branch was last year. Especially if you're going to blitz, you're a lot of times you're going to be that force player, right? You have to force the ball back inside, or sometimes you got to spill and press the action and push it outside. He's very willing to do that. So you see the transition burst, those kind of things. He loves to control the route. And, you know, in the slot, we've seen some success there when he's able to get hands on you and kind of control the route. A lot of these you're noticing are also man coverage where it looks really good. Zone, you know, looked a little shaky, honestly, in the slot when he played there. It was years ago, but man coverage, right? You see a lot of good there. And that's why it was exciting when we signed, because he was a very good man coverage corner when he was available as a free agent years ago, when he became available from San Fran. I got a couple more clips here, but you see like this, he gets over aggressive, right? Leaving his zone, but trusting his eyes and just going after it. And I can appreciate that from that position. I think the Lions can too. The aggression like this, the ability to tackle in open space. I just think this is a really fascinating thing here. You see him in the slot, physical with Kupp, throws off the timing, ball gets picked off by a defensive lineman. I think it's fascinating to think about what that could look like, because we talk about a lot of other guys playing that position, but you know, maybe he can. And for Mosley, it's kind of like Gilmore, right? Like for all these guys, you got to just find a way. You got to just find a way to make the team. And the more places you can prove that you're capable, we know you're capable out wide. We saw it for years, but could it hide some of the negatives there where he's not as fluid and he doesn't feel as loose as a corner, and he feels a little bit choppy at times in coverage, and it feels like he's much more consistent just in man, getting hands on guys, right? Even if that's just playing kind of a catch technique or jamming you at the line, because, you know, it's like he's probably going to be given some cushion. But he doesn't seem to want to get in a half turn a ton. He kind of likes to just stay square with guys, deal with those intermediate routes, and having that immediate burst. He's super bursty as a corner. It's like, if you prove that you can do that, that gives you a leg up to me in making the roster. Because now the Lions could be like, yo, if we do have that injury, or if an injury pops up during training camp, we're going to kick you there. It's going to be hard to keep that guy from the team because they already feel like he could play wide. They signed him for that role. They re-signed him without having seen it. So they feel good about that. So you show me you can do that at a high level. How am I not going to keep you on the roster? It's going to be tough not to. And Mosley's not in a place financial, like with where his contract is, where it's like he's a lock. You know, I like him a lot. I think he'll make the team, but he's not like a lock, right? We just talked about Gilmore does this thing again. Maybe he's not. So I don't know. And Dorsey, I mean, don't give up on Dorsey. Dorsey continues to improve. He was nice last year, showed flashes. But anyways, I just think that's interesting. The other one we're going to talk about here in a second. But just sticking on the back end. So no Branch, Kirby and Iffy were safety. That's as expected, you know, with the first team. And then when you got to, you know, that was, I mean, I think the defense as a whole was kind of expected. When you got to the offensive side, this would be the offensive line, man. The offensive line is interesting. For these ticket prices, I better be calling plays for Ben Johnson. Yo, hey, that's funny. I see you, Charles. You hear, dude, I did. That's the one thing I did here. I think Schefter or something posted it. And I get Schefter's updates. I don't know what I did on X for whatever reason. I like get Schefter updates. Nothing else. I just get his updates. But it's very valuable. Like, hey, whoever, I think it was Schefter, follow that man. It's nice to have that. Do you think Mosley will start? Okay, I already read that comment. Mosley, if he can get back to where he was a few years ago, and that's the thing, man. It's just like, you're right. It's not like Mosley's shown us a dip in what he's capable of. It's just that we haven't seen him. So like we all kind of assume he may not be at the same level, but who knows? What if he is? What if he's the same dude? It's like, yo, that's a darn good cornerback. Thumbs up, everyone. I mean, it's nice that they have, you know, other options if he's not. Mosley was a good player. Let's see what he can do. He was trending up and up, man. He's trending straight up with San Fran, taking over a starting role there as an former undrafted free agent. But the offensive line is super interesting to me because starting five, we know what that's going to look like. But to hear the backup position right now, these will change. But Dan Skipper at left tackle, okay, that makes sense, right? We saw flashes last year. He played certain games. He actually played pretty well at left tackle. Shout out to Dan Skipper. Nitane Mutai was with the second team. So I'm not surprised they didn't go with the guy they signed today, that he just immediately got there. Though I'm curious to see what he looks like. Or yesterday, I should say. Curious to see what he looks like at guard. But they go with Nitane Mutai at guard. And I Is there anybody else that would have started over him or would have been on the second team that I would have expected? I don't think so, just because of how the rest of it shook out. The only other guy would have been the guy that we talked about this morning. Ike Botager, that player. And then Christian Mahogany apparently was also not there at practice. So that's something to keep an eye on, because I think that probably has a huge impact on this. I don't know that he would have been with the second team. Probably not. I don't know why he's not at practice. I haven't heard anything on that. If you guys have, please let me know. That's another, I think, a key aspect here, because potentially maybe he would have been with the second team, but he's not here. So he's probably now going to be with the third team. So, there's just that to keep an eye on. But yeah, so Nite Mutai is out there, and you also have Kayode. Yes, Kayode was at the opposite guard, but apparently they both played guard positions. So yeah, Kayode was expected. Nite Mutai is very interesting. Plenty of experience there. And then at center, they went with Michael Neese. Okay, that makes sense. But it is interesting to hear they're both flipping guard positions. Obviously, showing that flexibility is going to be huge, like who can play multiple guard positions to try to make this team. But then having Colby at right tackle, I love this. I freaking love this, Lions. Yo, the wildest stuff gets me hyped. I ain't even gonna. His name is pronounced Betger. It's Betger. Okay, I appreciate you, man, because I would have just said that wrong forever. I appreciate Betger. Got you. Or Beatger. Wait, is it Beatger? Beatsker? I'm gonna go Betger. Betger sounds cool. But dude, the littlest things fired me up. I was fired up to hear that Colby Sorsdal is taking reps at right tackle. And it's like, I'm not going to let the right guard stuff go to waste. That's valuable experience, that kind of stuff. Like being able to play guard, right? That's huge. So you can play every position outside of center would be awesome. And then it's like, hey, find out. Like if the Lions feel like Colby Sorsdal, if they got to a point where they're like, he's good at guard and he can play right tackle, even if it's not left. It's like we're cool with him at guard. We're cool with him at right tackle. Now you keep around Dan Skipper, and you're at that point now with that versatility where you can really say to yourself, like, we could keep eight offensive linemen. Now it's a full-on battle of who's going to win center. Who's going to win backup center? Because I got a guy that can play both guard positions. I have my left tackle, my backup left tackle. We know Graham can move around the line of scrimmage. Now it's who can play backup center. And obviously, if you want to go 9, you get more flexibility than that. But it would make sense that there's like a competition for who's going to play a guard. Because my thing is then you get to the point where if Mahogany just makes his team, which I expect him to do, you could have Mahogany, whoever wins that other guard position, which would be Nite Mutai versus Betger or Beatger. Hey, that sounds like a pod. That player, you have that battle going on, or Kayode. And then you have Colby Sorsdal, you feel like can play all the other positions. And if he gets to that point where you feel comfortable with it, which apparently they kind of do, then keeping Mahogany is not like taking somebody's spot, because you're like, oh, it's cool, he can play a guard. Bro, like, that's awesome. That would be awesome, because then we could kind of have like envision already, like, okay, we know where the 9's going to come from. Now just figure out who it's going to be. Not a lot of like question marks of like what actually is going to make sense here. And that really comes back to Colby playing well at right tackle, because the idea was like wide open. It was like, dude, the first time we saw him last year was Atlanta. It wasn't perfect, but he didn't look bad. He looked capable at right tackle. Obviously, that's what he did in college. And to hear that they're kind of leaning into like, yo, let him play right tackle, let him get reps there, I'm super excited for that. I think that just makes so much sense. He looked capable last year, even though it was a very small sample size. I'd love to let that guy continue to get work at right tackle and just see what it turns into, man. Because he's also got the body type. It's also interesting that he was there above Connor Galvin, who played well, even though Galvin was at left tackle. So I guess that's not a surprise. He probably should be on the third team. But I don't know. I just love it. I personally love it. I don't know if you guys are fired up like I am about it, but I'm really going to be watching for Colby Sorsdal because I don't know. I think it's going to be amazing, bro. Like, we could use that. We could absolutely use that. And it just opens up so much flexibility, him being able to do that. And then at third team, again, the keynote was Manu at left tackle. Like, Manu to me is going to make the team as well, which would then put you at 10 offensive line, which would be difficult. And again, if he's no longer on the list, 10 offensive line would be very difficult. Could the Lions get to the point where they're like, okay, we're going to keep Mahogany and Manu. Colby Sorsdal puts us at 8. We want to keep Dan Skipper, which is 9. Do we try to keep one of these guards, or is it simply like, yo, we're not keeping any of you guards? That may come back to how good they feel about a guy like Christian. Like, Christian getting back to practice, and if he performs very well in preseason and he's like puts 3 great games together, they could get to the point where they're like, he's maybe a rookie, but he looks fine. Or they may have to say, like, we have to stretch a little bit to try to keep 10 just because we know those 2 are going to be on the team. We'll see how that shakes out, but I think the vision's kind of clear here, just how many. I think that's pretty cool. What else do we want to touch on? Okay, we got to touch on the running back position. So Gibbs, apparently a little bit limited today, but because of that, it was mainly Craig Reynolds. We know Monty's one of the top 2. So Vaki comes in at like running back 4, which very understandable. He have to work his way up to get to that spot. Not a lot of reps, and there's just not a lot of reps to go around right now. The other one, though, receiver. Okay, Hendon Hooker, actually. We can hit on the Hendon Hooker stuff. You see Manu playing special teams with 4.9 speed at his size. He could be a game changer. What could he do on special teams? I mean, he could be like field goal. He could be on the field goal unit. Could he be on the punt team? Yeah, I guess he could be on the punt team. I mean, usually teams don't put tackles out there on the punt team. From what I remember charting wise, like usually teams will have their long snapper and everybody else kind of along that punt team would be like linebackers and safeties or maybe tight ends. So you wouldn't really have tackles. So I'd be pretty shocked that they would do that. I think it definitely could be out there on field goal team, and that'd be good. You need a guy who's just a wall. I mean, that's still helpful. Could they put him on there on field goal block? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it'd be wild, but hey, you need to do it just long as heck. Hey, why not? I'm not against it. Anybody that can help us block a field goal. So I don't know if they could get that versatile with him. There you go, right? Like field goal team feels like kind of is where you could be pigeonholed into. If they expand beyond that, though, I'm here to see what it looks like. Like kickoff return. Okay, probably not, but you know, it'd be fun. Do you see Rodriguez getting more time at fullback? So J Mommy, hey, we did the thing today. Sean McEwen, we looked at Sean McEwen, we looked at Parker Hesse. I think those two guys are competing for that role too. I think that could come down to where the Lions are at. Like, are the Lions more so wanting to display linebacker or fullback? I thought he was fine at fullback last year. I actually thought he did a pretty nice job as a run blocker in terms of what we had before. Cabinda didn't feel effective enough as a run blocker. And then he obviously made a nice reception. So football's not going to be like a staple of their offense. But if that's, here's my thing. If Sean McEwen and let's say Parker Hesse are both competing for potentially having that role, if those guys don't excel, I think they'd be cool with just letting Malcolm play that role and just going heavier at linebacker just to say we have the best 53. Let's just let him play fullback. And if we need somebody, one of those guys with the practice squad, we'll just bring them up. So I think that's probably most likely to happen, honestly. But if one of those two actually prove that, like, hey, there's some flexibility here, they can do some things. They can actually kind of play as a tight end a little bit. Now that may allow them to, in a world, like make that guy at the bottom of the roster and keep him around for a specific role. But they'll probably have to be able to do more beyond just being a fullback, I would think. So yeah, I think Rodriguez has the leg up to be that guy this year. I want to see Sewell in there catching passes and blocking at fullback. Well, if you're doing that, we don't even need. Hey, Manu needs to step it up though, or Colby Sourcewell. That way we can allow him to do it. Okay, Hendon Hooker. So we heard today that he came out and he said he was a little jittery. I guess he was inaccurate early. And then he talked about like he kind of calmed down and he was really smooth and stuff like that. And if you watched Hendon Hooker in college, like his entire passing motion was incredibly fluid. It was always the same looking. At times, like you would see balls kind of just like soar on him, like they would just go, but it was always the same looking. It was always very fluid as a passer, and it always was very rhythmic as a passer. It was just very sound. So it makes a ton of sense that if he was jittery and he was like rushing the process, that balls would just get away from him. It feels like he has a very easy arm. He feels like he has very easy velocity as a passer. It's just it needs to be very fluid as a passer. And we know like quarterbacks are all about that. Like it's all about the fluidity as a passer, those kind of things, not being like super like segmented as a quarterback. And he's not at all. So I guess that would make sense. And I can understand it. Like this dude's playing football. He's probably just hyped up. Like, yo, we're on 7-on-7. Let's get it, dude. I'm ready to go. And apparently he locked in. He did some really good things. And he was quarterback 2 above Sudfeld, which we'll see how that shakes out. But I would assume that's probably how it's going to look coming into preseason. I like Sudfeld too. So having Sudfeld is like kind of just a nice piece in there. I'm a fan of it. If Sudfeld was quarterback 3, I'd feel really good about that. I'd feel fine with Sudfeld being quarterback 2, to be honest with you. So I'm cool either way there, but Hooker should win that role. But apparently he did his thing, threw some nice passes to Jalen Calhoun out of Duke, Amon-Ra St. Brown, which means he was getting, reps with some starters, and same thing with Khalif Raymond. So that's cool to hear. The flip side of that is, speaking on the receiving side of things, is, and let me see if I have it here. Jared Goff is the perfect player to mentor Hendon Hooker. A lot in common other than mobility. Yeah, and they both look, man. My always thing was like Hendon Hooker will take care of the football. I mean, he's obviously, yeah, like you said, he's an athlete and he's got some athletic traits that I don't think Goff has. But the flip side is, man, like, yeah, mentally, they both want to take care of the football. They both want to stay on in rhythm. It's a perfect fit for us. So I'm with you. Like, you just learn from him, man. Just take cues from him. Just pick up on what he's looking at. Like, that would be my thing with him. It's just like, just understand what his process is to make sure that your timing's there, because his timing is going to have to be quick. And, that's he's got to play fast, right? Goff is one of the best quarterbacks statistically under 2.5 seconds. That's where I would be focusing. Like, where can I learn there from Goff? Because everything else beyond that, right? We can find the extensions and stuff. You have the athleticism to do that, but that's where we need to be able to just be very consistent. That being said, though, so the quarterback position, the one guy that was named today, with Anquan Green getting work with starters, which makes sense. He was here last season. No Donovan Peoples-Jones. So because of that, it was Darius Fountain, who apparently made a really nice grab, I guess, on... Was that him? No, I'll take that back. We had a really nice grab on a wheel route. Or was this similar style? Why did I write similar style? Fountain on Vildor. Was that the right play? Yeah, that must have been the right play. So apparently he had a really nice grab on Kindle Vildor. Darius Fountain, though. So interesting thing about this, and we didn't talk about him today. I know we talked about him on Bleacher Report because I had watched all this guy's preseason last year, and I was like, okay, this is familiar. But I can remember the big thing that stood out with me with Fountain, and these are old clips, so I apologize. They look kind of weird. But big thing that stood out with Fountain is if there is a guy that's just like physically built similar to Peoples-Jones, it's Fountain. He's the most similar to that. He was coming off a good preseason with the Chicago Bears. Statistically speaking, had a couple nice performances in there. Here you see him in the slot number 82 as a number 2 receiver here. Thing I always liked about him is athletically, obviously he was super gifted. Darius Fountain was, athletically speaking. Like I said, very similar to Peoples-Jones in the sense that, do I have his athleticism scores here? Let me pull them up so I can give you guys the exact numbers. Let me pull them up. He is 6'2", 210. Now he's 28 years old. And he had like a freakish broad jump, 42.5-inch vertical. I think he ran just over a 4.5 40, which we know that Peoples-Jones had a really nice 40 time as well. Like, he's very similar, and he's also physically like much more stout as a receiver as well. So he's very similar just in terms of build there. What I always liked is the efficiency of his footwork. You see it here at the top of the route through the break. Really not, and it feels like he's counting a little bit. He's not as, smooth and fluid through his transition. So it feels like first level, second level, like his separation was a problem. You saw the release was a problem in the preseason. I don't know what he looks like now, but even though he felt like he counted steps at times, he had a nice vertical push and his footwork was efficient at the top of the route. He really did a nice job of like, okay, I'm getting another break. I need to hit this foot to go to this foot to sit myself down. Everything was really clean at the top of the round. I thought that was big. There was questions about ball skills coming out of the draft when he came out of school, but radius is never really a question. You see him up here. Radius was never really a question mark with him. Obviously, vertically, just like Peoples-Jones, he can go up and get it. And he can climb the ladder, and he can get separation late. And here's what reason why. I think he plays really nice balance. I think that's one of the best aspects. He plays really good route balance. He's very sturdy. And because of that, he's hard to kind of knock off at the top of the route. So even though sometimes he doesn't separate, he's hard to push off his spot because of that. And that can help him at the catch point. And here, being able to like kind of slide down to the ground, scoop it off the ground like that, just showing some of that athleticism here on this dig route. Don't love how his eyes are already peeking inside, kind of giving that up. But the footwork, very efficient to break off this dig route. It's smooth there. So he is still able to create separation there. That was before half against the Indianapolis Colts. And then here you can see like when the guys get physical with him, the release, it's like it felt like he was a little bit like limited in kind of his release package. His footwork didn't always seem as quick or as agile, felt like a little bit heavy. And sometimes like his angles were super wide and he just kind of get punched in the chest. But he did have awareness. Like he had some craftiness. You'd see him lose one and then he'd come back and win another. And you see plays like this, like here off this verdict, like he has really nice burst. He can get on top of guys early on the play. But some of like that initial just quickness in the footwork didn't feel like it was there. And with some of that, like just a lack of variety in terms of relief package, when he felt like he was dealing with press, it just felt like everything was kind of thrown off. There just wasn't consistency in terms of ways to win, keeping himself clean, having his hands ready, being able to battle guys immediately, and then guys would just stick on top of the route and stay with him. Off coverage, much better because of that. But you would also see that, and here's like kind of that balance, you'd all see they could schematically get him open. And just like this, right, where the guy's sticking with him, but he's able to break it down. And then again, the footwork, like 1-2, plant, and I'm out. And then it's just that burst out of it. And that's where you see the efficiency with him to open up level 3 routes. He has the stacking ability, then to finish. The questions are obviously like getting off the line more consistently. Can you separate underneath? I don't know that that's going to be a big upside. Can you separate level 2? Maybe a little bit, like kind of like Peoples-Jones. It doesn't have to look like it. You don't have to have a ton of shake, but you have to have the traits like where it's like, hey, I can handle contact, or my footwork, I'm not, beating the drum like crazy to try to get on the break. Comeback routes, more of that. But like Diggs, I think there's a lot of similarities in terms of the way that he will win, similar to the way that Peoples-Jones will win. Peoples-Jones feels like it's a little bit more polished. Obviously, Peoples-Jones also had a lot more experience in the NFL as like regular season games. He feels more polished in a lot of those ways, but build-wise and the way that they're going to win, there is a lot of similarities that stem back to Donovan Peoples-Jones. So hearing that is understandable because like we talked about today, like Peoples-Jones is going to win in a way that is going to really play to these quarterbacks because that's where a lot of our offense is going to play through. But in the meantime, if this player shows out and he shows improvement on that stuff, like, hey, could he be the surprise receiver? No question. No question, man. And he could do some things after the catch too. So I don't know, man. Keep an eye on Darius Fountain. Definitely a guy we need to give some attention to, apparently. Hooker's still working with Teddy B also. Okay, that's awesome. I didn't know that's awesome. Yo, what up, Boom? Hey, Boom's in the building, chat. Change is what makes a team work together. Ooh, I like that. Okay, what are we referencing here? But I like that. That sounded good how you typed that. Change is what makes a team work together. But those were separated. So I see. Okay. Rock Howard. What up, Rock Howard? What up, man? How you doing? What's that picture? Is that Juice World? Hookers needs to work on lower body strength, mid-range passes. I'm with you there. Just consistency, right? Like he would miss some easy throws in college, some really easy throws. Then he makes some like, that's beautiful. The touch is like, that is beautiful. But he missed some really easy stuff. So just kind of dialing that. And then missing time really stinks on top of that. But it's always looks the same. So it feels like something that the positive is like when you dial that in, it should be incredibly consistent. And we heard today Jared Goff was awesome, which is great news. Usually we're talking about the defense early, and I'm sure we will a lot of these days, but sounds like the ball wasn't on the ground very much at all. And he kind of drills. And when it was because there was drops. And I guess one of them was from Antoine Green. And who was the other one that dropped the pass apparently? Apparently somebody else also dropped the pass. I don't know who the other one was dropped the pass. Apparently it was a couple. Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta dropped the pass, I guess. But outside of that, Goff was clean, on the money. It's kind of what you expect at this point. Also working against rookies. Like it's almost in a way like, hey, they're figuring out, they're speeding it up where they need to be. And now you're getting used to like a quarterback with weapons that he knows where they're dynamic. Like you got a Jameson Williams that's going to take top off like that play. Yeah, you're going to have to be prepared for that because he's just going to go. So any kind of like thinking as a defensive back, you're not playing fast enough to keep up with an offense that really doesn't have that going on right now. Everybody's should be kind of locked into the same pace, and we know what to expect from Goff. So honestly, like I want to see your defense taking the ball away, but it does sound like Goff was in a good spot, just accurately speaking. I think that's the key there. If he's accurate versus defense actually makes plays, because he'd still be accurate and guys could still be taking the ball away. You know, both sides is playing really well, making contested grabs, that kind of thing. But it sounds like he was on the money today. But anyway, those are the things that really stood out to me from what we had heard. Those two players in particular are going to keep an eye on that. Outside of that, though, don't know that there was much else. Chat, is anything? I see you, FTP. I see you. I think I know what that means. I think what Ryan. I think I know what that means. If there's anything else that y'all saw today that I didn't see, like news wise, that I need to be aware of, man, let me know. I think I hit on everything that I wanted to touch on. Oh, defensive line wise. So apparently, Lee McNeil, right? Lee McNeil and Braddock Martin was starting at nose tackle next to him because there is no DJ Reader, which is, that's great. That's great. It also shows that the Lions are willing to give him reps early, which is cool, instead of like Kyle Pecco starting. To go with Braddock Martin, go with the young guy. We saw the videos of him pulling a trailer. To go with the young guy's cool early on, to give him that like trust and like, hey, we're going to give you this spot right now. Obviously, got to work to maintain that. We know we have with Pecco, though. At least we kind of feel like we do, even though there's some up and downs there too. But Braddock Martin, you are a potential future piece. Like, give him the reps early, and then Levi's rotating in, which is good. Levi needs reps. I'm curious to see what his body looks like, but that's where Lee McNeil's special, because Lee McNeil could just be like, okay, I'll go do this. And you kind of need that from both. You need both guys to be able to play with spots. So Braddock Martin's not going to play a 3 technique, but Aleem being able to play everywhere. Now Levi comes in. Those guys can both kind of play their own role. You can kind of just shift up what you're doing schematically, and they both have success. It is really cool to have a guy like Aleem that could just work with anybody. Shout out to Aleem McNeil for being that dude and why he's looking to get a big payday here soon. But he can work with pretty much anybody they put on the field. And then we saw with Braddock Martin, you put him out there. You could have Levi on the field too. You could have all 3 on the field if you wanted to. But then you get Pascal, who's apparently starting opposite of Hutchinson today, which again makes a ton of sense. Here's the thing that actually stuck out to me, because we haven't talked about it much. Mitchell Agood. I know I'm saying his name wrong. Someone fixed me on my pronunciation, I think, earlier today, and I kind of forgot what it was. Mitchell Agood, who we signed, he was a 2023 undrafted free agent, was with the Miami Dolphins. I don't have the clips. I should have. Actually, I do. I have some clips of Mitchell Agood, but just going on my notes, and this is not from today, so it's not like I'm writing this because I heard how they were using him. I wrote these yesterday, and very strong in the core. He has that shed ability. Hand usage to me was a mess as a pass rusher, but he's very long. He has like the most typical build of like your normal edge rusher, over 34-inch arms, really good length on the edge. Lack of agility was a problem. Stop, start, shiftiness, that was a problem at a 7.46 cone time. And he didn't play, I didn't think, with great leverage as a bull rusher either. So that needs to be improved upon. But build-wise, physically speaking, to set the edge, that kind of thing, that does make sense. His get off wasn't very good either. It does make sense that would fit more into a Josh Paschal type of role than it would. And probably like when I say that, like more of like, hey, play a 5 technique. Like don't go play 9, don't play on the edge, don't go stand up. We're just kind of taking away from what you actually do well. Playing him in that role and seeing if he can kind of embrace that and find success there. See if he can find a role of like, hey, he can play with leverage and he can create some walk back and maybe some push pull wins and things like that. Being able to lean into the way that his traits are right now, I think that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I mean, that's kind of cool that's what they're doing with him, because I think that's where the upside potentially is going to come into play. Don't know that there's much upside of him actually being an edge rusher. He did it, but the plays that he made were against the run, in the backfield, aggressive to the football, that kind of thing. So honestly, getting him on contact earlier is probably just makes more sense. I don't know if he actually, I think he did drop into coverage a lot, but was he the guy who was dropping into coverage a lot? I think he may have been. But I think that's cool that's the role that they're asking him to do there. So we'll see how that turns out. But if something's going to turn out of that, that makes a ton of sense. And apparently he may have been ahead of John Kaminsky, which is really interesting. I wouldn't say that means a ton right now, but maybe they really like him there. Maybe that's, kind of knowing what John Kaminsky is. Maybe that's to fire up Kaminsky. I don't know. Just thought it was interesting. I'm not going to make too much of it now, but I thought that was interesting that's where he would be. Obviously, he's a potential cut candidate just because financially it could happen. He already had taken the pay cut. He's on the final year of his contract. Mekhi Wingo's here, so you potentially have your future there. So getting a look at Mitchell could make more sense. I would think getting a look at Mekhi Wingo would make a ton of sense for that reason. So I'm not going to say that because that he's like going to get cut, because I would almost think I'd rather see what Mekhi looks like if I was going to do something like that. But maybe they already kind of know Mekhi's going to get stashed, and it's like, well, if Mitchell can do it, then we could potentially move off him. But I don't think they're in a hurry to move off John Kaminsky. I don't. I think if it happens, it happens because someone else excels. Awesome. I don't think they're in a hurry though to be like, how fast can we get off of John Kaminsky? I don't think that's their plan. But it is something to make note of. Like it is interesting that was something today. Okay, I think that's. Make sure I didn't miss nothing. I think that is everything. Yeah. Okay. Boom. We hit it, man. That's the news from today. Not a lot today. Plan on being back tomorrow. Now, tomorrow may be later. Because just kind of how the practice is set up, it's probably going to be later by the time I get back. So if we do stream tomorrow, it'll probably be later. Maybe it is a video. I hope it's a stream. I kind of like doing a stream thing a little bit better, but y'all let me know. I mean, obviously, like numbers wise, videos make more sense. But for me, it just kind of makes more sense to do more streams, just timing wise. When is Reader looking to be ready by? I don't know. But, it sounds like he's still on where they expected to be. And, if that's the case, if he's on that exact same track Dan Campbell initially told us, which was probably not expected to be ready at the beginning of camp, then that would make sense to this point. It's just I don't know where he is beyond that. But again, like I said, I don't need to see DJ Reader play, bro. They just are trying to build up that strength so that he can deal with contact. They're not in the pads yet anyway. So, like, do I need to see DJ Reader? It's kind of like Carlton Davis. I don't need to see DJ Reader. Especially with linemen, dude. Like, let's be real, right? Like, you don't need to see DJ Reader with no pads on. I get nothing from that. DJ, look, man, you're not going to, like, blow me. Like, no, look at that guy. He's an athlete. Like, he is an athlete, but that's not. So, I don't know. Like, we'll see. I definitely want him back out there. But, like, especially with, like, before we get pads on, there ain't nothing I can gain from that. However, though, the sooner he's back, the better we'll all feel, because we'll just know. Because he is the one guy that remains on a list right now. The one guy that does. So that does, I guess, concern you 2 points, because he's still on the list. But as expected, I guess. So maybe Dan Campbell will tell us. But he said there was no setbacks. That's the original thing he told us. So if that's the case, I think we'll be okay. Haven't seen an NFC roundtable in a while. So roundtables are coming back. I think they basically just took the summer off. But we are coming back, and there's going to be a lot more roundtable stuff, like a lot more. They're doing big things over there. I won't go into anything, but they're doing big things over there. So once the season kicks off, it'll be a lot. But I think we are doing some preseason stuff. Stay tuned for that. Also tomorrow, even though, like I said, we probably won't do a morning show, I will be doing a show on Bleacher Report before I leave for practice. So 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. Eastern time, I will put the link in the community tab. I always do. Put the link in the community tab. 2 p.m. Eastern, link in the community tab. That's when it starts. 30-minute show on Bleacher Report. We're going to talk training camp. So if y'all want some more training camp earlier in the day, we'll be live over there. If you miss it, it'll be on my events page. You'll be able to check out the replay of it. But those usually go a lot more fast paced, so it's difficult for me to hit on every comment. But I always appreciate you guys joining in there, man, comment-wise, because it keeps the flow going, keeps the energy going. You guys bring that energy. Keeps me going, because when it's all kind of fast-paced and it kind of dies off, I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm just pulling everything kind of along. So y'all being in there is awesome, man. So anybody that wants to, show some love, man, that'd be amazing. You got to have hands at D-line to keep the O-line off you. I hear that, man. Terrell Williams, violent hands. Yes, I like that word. I wanted to see what he can do with our guys. Yeah, me too, man. Had Davis to the Lions as the third worst offseason trade. Hey, Tony, a hater, dog. Third worst? What did they get from that? Hold up. Nah, timeout. We can't just leave on that note. What did they get from that? They got a third-round pick, right? So, I can't remember who they drafted. Hold up. I had looked at this recently. I think they took a good... No, they got Jalen McMillan. I think they got Jalen McMillan, who I liked. They took Jalen McMillan, I'm pretty sure, with that pick. I like Jalen McMillan. Though. So I guess I can understand from the perspective of, like, I like Jalen. He's probably saying because of the investments we made at corner in the draft, we didn't need to. But, bro, like, honestly, overkill's not a problem. With where our cornerback room has been at, overkill's probably the right thing to do. It's not really about Brad Holmes to do something like that, but it's also not the worst thing to do either. Know what we have there. But, I mean, that's just going to come down to health. I don't think that's going to come down to play at all. He's going to fit in here schematically. To me, it's just simply going to come down to health. That's just basically, is he going to be healthy or not? And that's something I can't project. And then, obviously, where his contract has only 1 year, it's truly his health, because it could turn into a rental. And then I'd say, fair enough, you could say a 1 year rental, a guy that's, if 1 year rental of a guy that doesn't play a ton versus a third round pick, which is Jalen McMillan, you could argue that that's a better move for their side. So, but if he's healthy and it turns into a potential extension or a nice deal elsewhere, we got a comp pick. Now, all of a sudden, I think it makes us win that trade. Maybe not them lose that trade, depending on how McMillan does, but we didn't lose a trade for sure. So that's truly based on health. But anyway, I'm glad you brought that up, DT fan, man. That was a good ending note. We'll see how that goes. All right, we out. Have a great rest of your night, man. I appreciate all of y'all joining. Expect later streams. I'm going to talk, see if I can get Let's Talk Lions or potentially Rad on and stuff like that. By the way, Michael, Rad responded with, "What up?" Hey, yo. Hey, Michael, wait, did I read that to you? Michael, Rad responded. He said, "What up?" So he knows what time it is. So that we'll see if we get Rad on, man. All right, man, I'm going to end it here. Have a great night. I'll see y'all again tomorrow. Bleacher Report first, 2 p.m. Eastern time, man. Link in the community tab, or just go to Bleacher Report and you'll see me live over there. Or potentially later at night. We out.